Thanks for joining us once again. The focus of our talk today is the fact that it was just announced this week that Apple will close down its electric vehicle or semi top secret project. The reason they shut this project down is because Tesla's excellence did not leave room for Apple to viably enter the field. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the show, would like better information on investing and trading, please join us on Patreon. And a like and a subscribe and comments are also greatly appreciated. So, as you all know, Apple decided to shut down their between $3 and $4 billion of spending on EV that went over the last 10 years. So we wanted to go through a few detail points here, including the fact that the absence of a competitor of that quality starts to affect successfully the price of Tesla stock, because we know we won't see competition from such a well-heeled competitor. So I decided to do this show because there is something interesting happened, which is that there are a number of major news organizations like Bloomberg and Fortune and others. They were doing some speculations on, well, why is it that they shut this down right now after doing all that work and didn't choose to extend and actually deliver our product? So this introduces a process that Apple has. So right now, Apple has a problem, a huge problem. The problem is that the only way your stock price grows is if your company is growing. And so if you sell some earbuds or the latest version of an iWatch, that's not enough revenue to move the needle for the company. It will naturally grow because of its size at 2% per annum, because that's the growth level of the population. But in order to grow, to keep stock prices going, they've got to do a lot more than that. So anytime they take a swing, it has to be a big one. And in this case, they were looking at, should we get into the auto industry or not? And the idea was that we can spend or invest dollars aggressively with a lot of people, et cetera, to try to accomplish that task. And they ran into, if you will, the Tesla wall. So I don't know if you've noticed this about Apple, but the trend is that they tend to create products that are differentiated from others in a lot of ways. And eventually the marketplace does catch up, but Apple tends to retain its space. Look at almost any of the major products they've done. The iPhone and now Samsung and others sort of copied the smartphone process. We can look at earbuds. We can look at the iPad. Apple's the first mover. There are second movers that arrive, but Apple has tended to continue to sell well in these new and brilliant products they've delivered. Well, the question that comes up, which answers the question of why, is let's think about, obviously there are electric vehicles. There have actually been electric vehicles around since 1900, when Mercedes' first vehicle was actually electric. So electric vehicles in general aren't new. Over the last several years, particularly with Tesla spearheading it, there are a large number of companies that Tesla has actually helped enter the business of electric vehicles. And so therefore, they've sort of generated their own competition in this process. So the next question then is, how and why would a company the size of Apple decide, hey, we're not going to do this, even though we have access to a lot of the same engineers Tesla already has. We have, huge amounts of cash because our profit margins are so high on our best-selling products. So we now get into a very interesting space, which is, what angle could Apple enter the business at that would allow them to differentiate themselves from competitors, but and draw large market share? So if you think about Apple's products, they tend to be innovative, obviously, and they tend to exploit avenues that are left wide open by competitors that don't think on the same innovation curve that Apple does. Well, the problem is that in essence, Tesla is the Apple of the EV industry. In particular, what I thought was fascinating is that Elon often talks about first principles of physics in terms of the process of how they organize their company. And as you may recall, they were building and have the largest charging network around the world well before others even thought about doing it. So the problem right now in the EV industry primarily is charging. The fact is that Tesla has a great charging network. Consumers thought that they'd in essence get a Tesla quality of charging with competing firms, and obviously that didn't happen. Hence, now surprisingly, Tesla will start opening up its network to competing products. So I really am enjoying this space because there's something happening that nobody is discussing that I'm really enjoying. And I'm enjoying it because I'm a Tesla fan and supporter, shareholder. And what that is that there's this concept that sits out there that consumers have limited bandwidth for the number of firms they want to work with in different spaces. So for example, prior to Google becoming dominant, Bing was huge. There are all these other entities out there, and eventually we ended up with pretty much people Google everything and they hate Microsoft and don't want to deal with Bing. So when we look at smartphones, pretty much, Samsung and Apple have divided this up, and you could come out with a nice new phone, but you can't differentiate yourself well enough, into things like their app store, et cetera, and the relationship you ever have with the customers. So the issue, problem, interesting thing here that's coming up is that we now have an interesting situation happen that shouldn't be happening, which is people standardizing on Tesla and its technology over well-heeled competitors. And one of the biggest drivers of that, obviously, is the charging facilities that Tesla has, and the fact that they have fast charging when most of the others either don't have fast charging, or if they do, they have such limited locations, both in number of units of chargers and locations for people to charge at, that they're desperate to really get over and onto Tesla's network. And if they can't get that kind of solution quality, they don't want electric vehicles. So what's lining up based on Apple's capitulation is a situation where it's entirely possible that we could end up in a Tesla monopoly situation. And if that occurs, obviously the company does well, stock does well, et cetera, et cetera. Will that happen? The answer is we're in the maybe zone. We're going to find that out. But do not be surprised if Tesla ends up getting 80-ish% of the EV market, and the rest of the large-scale competitors have to slice up the rest of what's left. Now, I do believe when you look at what's going on with the semis and most of their competitors choosing to move to hydrogen and other methods because they can't get a overall solution that allows them to match the Tesla Semi, I think that that's one space where this could definitely happen. So what I want to suggest then is we may be in this, if you think back to when PCs were first starting out, there were a huge number of brands, Dell and a few others focused on quality, sucked up a whole bunch of competitors, and then all of a sudden, a lot of other folks went out of business, leaving the space for a limited number of folks. And those folks have been able to do pretty well in the space. And I really think that there are a whole bunch of, we have the money to do it, we want to do it, from GM and VW and all the other big names, but there's the reality of only one company really doing it well right now. Obviously BYD is coming after Tesla, but they still need charging as well. And so I just believe that we're marching through the process of electric vehicles, and Apple, I think, with their deep pockets and how much they've spent already, is really showing that, Tesla is the best solution, and we just have to, hold the course, and we'll see that solution yield. I don't think monopolistic pricing is realistic, but I think huge pricing, and Apple being sort of the canary in the coal mine about how this whole industry is going to work. I think is huge. As you know, Apple has all kinds of engineers, all kinds of engineers that are as good, if not better, than what Tesla has on board. But for that niche, Tesla's done a lot of new inventions and has such a huge lead that it'll be very hard for anyone to unseat them from what they've accomplished thus far. So I just think that this is really exciting and it's worth the time to think through because I think it sets us up for some really exciting times for the company and its products as we go into the next 1 or 2 years. So the next and final thing I wanted to review, as you all know, Ford has stopped production on its Lightning truck. We know that a number of competitors have pulled back. And I have to say, I'm really stunned about the pullbacks because, yes, you want to put out a good product and you do not want to put out bad products and have customers just in general walk away from all of your products going forward. So, the Taycan, for example, there are some things out there that are working, but the price points don't fit the larger population, etc. And therefore, we have this situation right now where consumers have pulled back and not buying EVs as much. And the whole charging issue is dominating mind share for these folks. And I think it's appropriate. Any rate, I wanted to welcome you guys to comment, like, subscribe as well. We also want to next move to our health tips for the day. Just a reminder, I wanted to encourage you to consider, as they do it, to consider one of our doctor recommendations of, for kidney reasons, avoiding meat for 3 of these 7 days a week, and therefore giving you a chance for your kidney to relax and rejuvenate without having to digest that meat. And I just wanted to encourage you to consider that as a dietary transition. At any rate, once again, I want to thank you for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, au revoir, Hitro, Khoda Hafez, Drasiche, Ni Hao Ma. And in Jamaica, we say enough respect, walk good. Arrivederci, have a great day, and bye for now.